Story 1. I've been a bartender at the Golden Lounge for about 5 years now. It's one of those upscale places where people come to celebrate special occasions or impress their dates. The kind of place where the cheapest cocktail costs more than what most people spend on dinner. I love my job, the atmosphere, the regulars, and especially my coworkers. We're like a family. Last Saturday started like any other weekend shift. The usual mix of couples on dates, business people unwinding after a long week, and groups celebrating various milestones. Around 8 p.m., this woman walks in with her teenage son. I could tell right away something was off. Most people don't bring their kids to a high-end cocktail bar, but I figured maybe they were meeting someone or just wanted to grab dinner since we do serve food. They sat right at my section of the bar. The woman was dressed like she was trying to prove something, designer everything, perfectly styled hair, and enough jewelry to open a small store. Her son looked uncomfortable, constantly tugging at his collar and glancing around nervously. "Karen, I'll have a Manhattan, and my son will have a vodka martini." Me, "I apologize, ma'am, but I can't serve alcohol to anyone under 21. I'd be happy to make him one of our specialty mocktails instead." "Karen, don't be ridiculous. He's 17, practically an adult. He's very mature for his age." Me, "I understand, but it's not about maturity. It's the law. I could lose my license and face serious legal consequences." Her son was sinking lower into his seat, clearly mortified. "Son, Mom, it's fine. I'll just have a soda." "Karen, no, it's not fine. This is discrimination. In Europe, he'd be allowed to drink. This is absolutely ridiculous." Me, "Ma'am, we're not in Europe. I have to follow local laws. Would you like to see our non-alcoholic menu?" "Karen, do you know who I am? Do you know how much money I spend at places like this? I want to speak to your manager right now." Me, "I'll get the owner for you." I texted my boss, who was in his office doing paperwork. While waiting, I continued serving other customers, trying to maintain a professional demeanor despite Karen's increasing volume. "Karen, this is unacceptable. You're embarrassing my son. He's more sophisticated than half the people in this bar." Her son looked like he wanted to disappear into thin air. "Son, Mom, please, let's just go." "Karen, no, we're not leaving until this is resolved. This bartender is discriminating against us." At this point, several customers had their phones out, recording the scene. My boss arrived, looking calm and collected as always. "Owner, good evening, ma'am. I understand there's an issue." Karen suddenly changed her entire demeanor. She started hyperventilating and clutching her chest. "Karen, oh thank goodness you're here, your bartender. He threatened me. He pushed my drinks across the bar so hard they splashed me. He was aggressive and made me feel unsafe." This was completely false. I hadn't even served them any drinks yet. Before my boss could respond, 3 different customers spoke up. Customer 1, "That's a lie. I've been recording this whole thing. The bartender was nothing but professional." Customer 2, "Yeah, I got it all on video too. She's making false accusations." "Karen, you can't film me without my permission. I'll sue all of you." She was getting more hysterical by the second. Her son had moved several seats away, pretending not to know her. "Owner, ma'am, I've reviewed our security footage, and I can see that my bartender handled this situation perfectly. I'm going to have to ask you to leave." "Karen, I will not. I'm calling the police. You'll all be sorry." "Owner, that won't be necessary. I've already called them." This seemed to snap her out of it for a moment. She looked around, finally noticing that nearly everyone in the bar was watching her meltdown, many still recording. "Karen, this is all your fault. Pointing at me, you've ruined our evening. This was supposed to be a special night." 2 police officers arrived shortly after. They reviewed the security footage and took statements from multiple customers who had witnessed everything. The evidence was overwhelming. Police officer, "Ma'am, you're under arrest for disorderly conduct and filing a false report." Karen, "What? You can't arrest me. Don't you know who my husband is?" As they were escorting her out, her son finally spoke up again. "Son, to the officers, can someone please call my dad to pick me up?" After everything calmed down, my boss called me into his office. "Owner, you handled that situation perfectly. I'm giving you a raise, and I want you to train our new hires on dealing with difficult customers." The next day, I found out that Karen had quite a reputation for pulling similar stunts at other establishments. Her husband, apparently a well-known lawyer, was livid not at the arrest, but at her behavior. According to our regulars who love good gossip, he's filing for divorce. The son came back a few days later with his dad to apologize. Turns out his mom had been trying to prove she was the cool parent after the divorce proceedings started. He was completely mortified by the whole thing and wanted to make sure I knew he never wanted to be part of her scheme. The videos of the incident went viral on social media, and our bar got an influx of new customers who wanted to see where the Karen meltdown happened. Some even requested the mocktail I had offered to make for the son. We ended up adding it to our menu as the underage martini. It's just a sophisticated blend of fruit juices and soda water with a twist of lime. I still deal with difficult customers occasionally, but nothing has topped that night. The security footage is now part of our training materials, showing new employees exactly how to handle high-stress situations while maintaining professionalism. And that raise, it helped me finally put a down payment on my own place. The best part? Karens became a regular cautionary tale in the local service industry. Whenever someone starts getting too entitled, other customers often joke, "Don't pull a vodka martini, Mom." It's become our bar's unofficial catchphrase. Story 2. I work as a ride operator at one of the biggest theme parks in the country. Been doing this job for about 3 years now, and let me tell you, you see all kinds of people in this line of work. But nothing could have prepared me for what happened last weekend. I was assigned to operate our newest roller coaster, the Thunderbolt. It's the park's latest attraction, a massive steel coaster with 3 inversions and a 90-degree drop. Ever since it opened 2 months ago, the wait times have been insane. We're talking 2 to 3 hours on a slow day. That Saturday was particularly busy. The summer heat was brutal, and everyone wanted to try the new ride. I'd been managing the line since my shift started at 9 a.m., making sure everything ran smoothly. The queue was organized with rope barriers, and people were being patient despite the long wait. Around noon, that's when it happened. I noticed some commotion at the front of the line. A woman with 2 kids, probably around 8 and 10 years old, had somehow pushed her way through the entire queue, shoving past everyone who'd been waiting patiently. A father from one of the families at the front spoke up first. "Father, excuse me, but the line starts back there. We've been waiting for over an hour." "Karen, so what? I have children with me. They're tired and hot. We deserve to go first." I immediately walked over to address the situation. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to go to the back of the line. Everyone here has been waiting their turn." "Karen, do you know how long we've been at this park? My kids are exhausted. You can't expect children to wait in that ridiculous line." "Teenage girl from the line, we've all been waiting. Your kids aren't special." "Karen, how dare you? You don't understand, you're just a child yourself. My children have been looking forward to this all week." Ma'am, the rules apply to everyone. If you don't want to wait in line, I can suggest some other attractions with shorter wait times." "Karen, I want to speak to your manager. This is discrimination against families with children." At this point, her kids were getting visibly embarrassed. The older one was tugging at her sleeve. Older child, "Mom, please, let's just go." "Karen, no, we're not going anywhere. We paid good money to be here." I radioed for security, which seemed to make her even more agitated. While waiting for them to arrive, she did something I still can't believe. She marched up to one of the roller coaster cars that had just pulled in and sat down, refusing to move. Ma'am, you need to exit the ride vehicle immediately. This is a serious safety violation." "Karen, I'm not moving until my children get to ride. This is ridiculous. You're all just jealous because you don't have children." By this time, 2 security officers had arrived. The crowd that had gathered was getting restless, with some people recording the whole thing on their phones. Security officer: "Ma'am, you need to come with us now." Karen: "Don't touch me. This is assault. I'll sue this entire park." The security officers were professionals, but she wasn't making it easy. She grabbed onto the safety bar, screaming about her rights and how everyone was against her. It took both officers to physically remove her from the ride while she kicked and screamed the entire time. Her kids were mortified, the younger one crying and the older one just staring at the ground. The crowd actually started cheering when the officers finally got her off the ride. Some people had been recording the whole thing, and I later heard it ended up on several social media platforms. The best part? As they escorted her out, our park manager arrived and personally handed her an indefinite ban notice. She tried arguing that she'd already paid for the whole day and her kids hadn't even gotten to ride anything yet. But the manager wasn't having any of it. "Manager, your behavior has violated multiple park policies. You've endangered yourself and others, disrupted our operations, and harassed our staff. You're banned from all our properties indefinitely." Karen: "This is illegal. I'll call my lawyer. You'll be hearing from them." She was escorted to the park exit, still yelling about lawyers and discrimination. Her kids looked absolutely devastated, and I couldn't help but feel bad for them. They missed out on what could have been a fun day at the park because their mother couldn't follow simple rules. The rest of the day went smoothly after that. We even managed to speed up the line a bit to make up for the delay. Several guests thanked me for handling the situation professionally, though honestly, I was just doing my job. The following week, I found out through my supervisor that she actually tried to dispute the ban on social media, claiming she was the victim of discrimination against parents. But multiple videos of her behavior had already gone viral, completely contradicting her story. Some people even recognized her from other incidents at different venues apparently. This wasn't her first entitled outburst. As for her lawsuit threats, nothing ever came of them. Turns out it's pretty hard to sue when there's clear video evidence of you violating multiple park policies and creating a safety hazard. The last I heard, she was trying to get the videos taken down from social media, which only made them spread even more widely. I still see her kids with their father sometimes. He started bringing them to the park after getting wind of what happened. Much nicer family dynamic when she's not around. The kids actually get to enjoy themselves without all the drama. Story 3. I work as an event coordinator at one of the most prestigious venues in our city, a beautiful converted Victorian mansion with sprawling gardens. I've seen my fair share of entitled people, but nothing could have prepared me for what happened last month. It was a quiet Tuesday morning when this woman burst into our office without an appointment. She was wearing designer clothes and sporting a massive engagement ring that she made sure to wave around while speaking. Her: "I need to book your venue for this Saturday." Me: "This Saturday? I'm sorry, but we're fully booked." Her: "No, you don't understand. I need it. My fiancé just got a huge promotion, and we want to have our dream wedding before he starts his new position next month. Money is no object." Me: "I apologize, but we have a funeral service scheduled for that day. The family booked it months ago." Her: "A funeral? That's ridiculous. People die all the time. This is my wedding. Can't they just do it at a church or something?" Me: "I'm sorry, but that's not possible. I can recommend some other beautiful venues that might have availability." Her: "No, it has to be here. My mother got married here, and I've dreamed about this my whole life. I'll pay double whatever they're paying." I explained that it wasn't about money and that we couldn't cancel a funeral service. She stormed out, and I honestly thought that was the end of it. I was so wrong. Saturday came, and the funeral service was underway. The deceased was a beloved local teacher who had passed away after a long battle with cancer. The main hall was packed with mourners, former students, colleagues, and family members. Suddenly, the double doors flew open. There she was, in a white dress, with two uncomfortable-looking bridesmaids behind her. Okay, everyone, I hate to interrupt, but we need to wrap this up. My wedding starts in an hour, and we need to set up. The room fell silent. The deceased's daughter stood up from the front row. Daughter, excuse me? This is my mother's funeral. Listen, I understand this is sad and all, but my wedding is more important. People have flown in from all over the country. I'll even make a donation to whatever charity you want. The funeral director stepped forward. Director, ma'am, you need to leave immediately. Do you know who my fiancé is? He's a senior partner at prestigious law firm. I'll have this place shut down. Director, security, please escort this woman out. Fine, I'm calling the police. You can't do this to me. She pulled out her phone and actually dialed emergency services. Meanwhile, our security team arrived. Into phone, yes, I need police. These people are refusing to leave and are ruining my wedding. They're trespassing. The dispatcher must have asked for clarification because her face got redder. Well, technically they booked it first, but this is more important. This is discrimination against brides. One of her bridesmaids finally spoke up. Bridesmaid, this is insane. I'm leaving. The other bridesmaid followed suit, leaving the wannabe bride alone with security. As they escorted her out, she was screaming about lawsuits and discrimination. The funeral director apologized to the family, and the service continued. But the story doesn't end there. Someone at the funeral recorded the whole incident on their phone. By that evening, it was all over social media. The local news picked it up, and they ran a story titled, "Bridezilla Crashes Funeral, Demands Mourners Leave." The next day, her fiancé came to our venue. But not to apologize, he came to inform us that the wedding was off entirely. Turns out, watching your future wife try to shut down a teacher's funeral was a deal-breaker. He looked exhausted and mentioned that her behavior had been escalating ever since his promotion. But this was the final straw. We've since updated our security protocols and added her to our permanent banned list. The last I heard, she moved to another city after the story went viral. The deceased teacher's family received an outpouring of support from the community, and several of her former students set up a scholarship in her name. Sometimes I wonder if she ever realized how badly she messed up, or if she's out there somewhere, still thinking she was somehow the victim in all this. Story 4. I've been a server at this upscale Italian restaurant downtown for about 3 years now. It's not exactly where I imagined I'd be at 25, but it helps pay for my night classes in graphic design. And most of our customers are actually pretty decent. The tips are good, my coworkers are supportive, and our manager actually stands up for us, which, if you've ever worked in the service industry, you know is pretty rare. I started working here right after my parents lost their small bookstore to the pandemic. They had been helping me with college, but when their business went under, I had to drop out temporarily. It was devastating, but I promised myself it was just a pause, not an end. The restaurant job was supposed to be temporary, just something to help me save up and get back to school. 3 years later, I'm still here, but I'm proud to say I'm finally back in school, even if it's just part-time. Last Saturday was particularly hectic. We had 2 large parties celebrating graduations, and nearly every other table was filled with couples on date nights. I've been running non-stop since my shift started at 4 p.m., but I wasn't complaining. Busy nights usually meant better tips, and I was saving up for a new laptop for my design work. My current one keeps crashing during projects, and I've already lost 2 assignments because of it. The night had been going surprisingly well, despite how busy we were. The kitchen was keeping up with orders, the bar wasn't backed up, and even the usually grumpy dishwasher was in a good mood. One of my coworkers had called in sick, so we were all picking up extra tables, but the customers had been understanding about slightly longer wait times. Around 7 p.m., I was serving a lovely elderly couple who'd been coming to our restaurant every anniversary for the past decade. They always requested my section when they could, and watching them together always made my heart melt a little. They had this beautiful tradition where they'd recreate their first date, right down to ordering the same meals they had back then. Me, would you like to see our dessert menu tonight? Elderly woman. Oh, we always get the tiramisu, dear. It's tradition. Elderly man. Asterisk winking at me asterisk, she's pretending she doesn't also order it every other time they come here, not just on our anniversary. Elderly woman. Asterisk playfully swatting his arm asterisk, don't go telling tales now. As they were finishing up their tiramisu, I was called to help with a large party in another section. One of our newer servers was struggling with a complicated wine order for a table of 12. Me, I'll be right back with your check. Please take your time with your dessert. Elderly man. No rush at all, dear. We're just enjoying the evening. I quickly dropped off their check and hurried to help my coworker. The wine situation turned into a whole ordeal, with one guest insisting we had a particular vintage we'd been out of for months, and another wanting detailed descriptions of every single red wine we offered. By the time I managed to get back to my section, about 15 minutes had passed. When I returned, the elderly couple had already left, but I saw they'd left a $100 bill tucked under the water glass. Their bill was only around $60, so this was incredibly generous. I was about to pick it up when another server called me over for help with a wine selection. I figured the money wasn't going anywhere, boy, was I wrong. As I was heading back to collect the tip, I noticed a middle-aged woman with the stereotypical, "Can I speak to your manager" haircut had already seated herself at the table, despite our "Please wait to be seated" sign. She was rummaging through her designer purse when I approached. Everything about her screamed high maintenance, from her perfectly manicured nails to her expensive-looking jewelry. Me, good evening, ma'am. I apologize, but this table hasn't been cleared yet. I'd be happy to get you set up at another table. Karen, asterisk sliding the $100 bill into her purse asterisk, oh, I'm quite comfortable here, thank you. I'll take a menu and a glass of your most expensive white wine. And do clean this table properly this time. I felt my stomach drop as I watched her pocket the money that was clearly left for me. My heart started racing. That money would have covered almost half of my textbook costs for next semester. Me, I'm sorry, but that money was actually left as a tip by the previous customers. Karen, asterisk looking at me with the most condescending smile asterisk, if they wanted you to have it, they should have handed it to you directly. Finders keepers, dear. Now, about that wine? Me, ma'am, I saw them leave it. It was deliberately placed under the glass as a tip. Would you please return it? Karen, asterisk her voice getting louder asterisk, are you accusing me of stealing? I simply found money on a table in a public restaurant. If anything, you should be offering me a discount for this misunderstanding and your accusations. Do you know who I am in this community? Me, please, that's my tip. I can get the customers on the phone to confirm. Karen, asterisk cutting me off asterisk, get me your manager immediately. I won't be treated this way by some server. The customer service these days is absolutely appalling. I was shaking at this point, partly from anger, partly from disbelief. A couple at the next table had stopped eating and were openly staring at the scene unfolding. I went to get my manager, who had thankfully been watching the whole situation unfold on our security cameras. Manager, is there a problem here? Karen, yes, there certainly is. Your server is harassing me and making false accusations. I demand compensation. Manager, ma'am, I've reviewed our security footage. The money you took was clearly left as a tip for our server by the previous customers. I'm giving you two options. You can either return the money and leave our establishment, or I can call the police and report this as theft. Karen, asterisk standing up. Her face red asterisk. This is absolutely ridiculous. I am a paying customer. Well, I would have been if your staff wasn't so incompetent. I'll have you know my husband is a lawyer and will sue this entire establishment for defamation. You have no right to throw around accusations like this. Manager, asterisk already dialing on his phone asterisk, I'm calling the police now. They can review the footage themselves and determine if a crime has been committed. The entire restaurant had gone quiet. with everyone watching this woman throw her tantrum. Some people had their phones out, probably hoping to capture the next viral Karen video. A family with young children at a nearby table was trying to quietly explain to their kids why the angry lady was yelling. "Karen, this is harassment. I'm a respected member of the community. I donate to charity. I'm on the board of my neighborhood association." When my manager mentioned he was actually calling the police, her face went from red to white real quick. She practically threw the $100 bill at me, and it fluttered to the floor. "Karen, here's your precious tip. I hope you're all happy making a scene and humiliating a respectable member of the community. This restaurant has lost a valuable customer today." She grabbed her purse and practically ran out the door, almost tripping over her own feet in her hurry to leave. As she was leaving, she bumped into a busboy carrying a stack of dirty dishes, but she didn't even slow down. The restaurant burst into applause after she left, which was embarrassing but kind of amazing. What happened next actually made me tear up. Customers from 3 different tables came up to add to my tip. One businessman gave me another 100, saying he'd seen too many servers get pushed around by entitled people. A young couple added $50, and an older woman gave me 40, saying she'd worked as a server for 12 years and knew exactly how I felt. My manager gave me the rest of the night off with pay, saying I'd handled the situation professionally. As I was getting ready to leave, I overheard some customers talking about a woman matching Karen's description who tried similar stunts at other restaurants in the area. Apparently, she'd been getting away with stealing tips for months. A few days later, I found out that someone had posted a video of the incident online. It went viral in our local community's Facebook group, and several other servers came forward with similar stories about the same woman. The local news even did a small segment about tip theft awareness because of it. Last I heard, 3 other restaurants had banned her, and she'd been identified as a serial tip thief. The elderly couple came back the following week, and I gotta tell them what had happened to their generous tip. They were horrified but relieved it had worked out okay. They insisted on leaving me another $100 tip, this time handing it to me directly with a wink. The incident actually ended up having a silver lining. Our restaurant installed a new policy where servers can collect tips immediately after customers leave, and we added signs reminding customers to hand cash tips directly to their servers when possible. My manager even gave me a small raise, saying my handling of the situation had shown real leadership potential. The extra money I received that night, combined with my regular tips, was enough to finally order my new laptop. Every time I use it for my design projects, I think about how sometimes the worst situations can bring out the best in people well, except for entitled tip thieves, of course. Story 5. I've been working as a mall security guard for about 5 years now, but my background in law enforcement goes deeper than that. I spent 12 years as a firefighter before a back injury forced me to switch careers. The transition wasn't easy. Going from rushing into burning buildings to patrolling a shopping mall took some getting used to. But I've come to appreciate this job, especially since I can still help keep people safe, just in a different way. Most days at the mall are pretty routine, helping lost kids find their parents, dealing with the occasional shoplifter, and making sure people follow basic rules. But there are some days that stand out, days when you encounter someone so entitled that it makes you wonder how they've managed to function in society this long. Last week gave me one of those memorable encounters. I should mention that our mall takes safety violations very seriously, especially when it comes to fire lanes. Last year, we had a terrible incident where a 65-year-old man had a heart attack in the food court. The ambulance couldn't get close enough to the entrance because some idiot had parked their truck in the fire lane to quickly grab a pizza. The paramedics had to wheel their equipment an extra 100 yards, wasting precious minutes. The man survived, thankfully, but it was a close call. After that incident, the mall implemented a zero-tolerance policy for fire lane violations. The mayor himself signed off on it, and we installed additional security cameras and warning signs. The signs are impossible to miss. They're bright red with reflective lettering, posted every few feet along the fire lane. They clearly state, no parking fire lane, and warn about immediate towing with a $500 fine plus daily impound fees. So there I was, doing my regular rounds on a busy Thursday afternoon, when I spotted this brand new Range Rover pulling into the fire lane. Not just any Range Rover, this was the latest model with all the bells and whistles, probably worth close to $100,000. The driver didn't even attempt to look for a proper parking spot. She just swooped right in like she owned the place. I was already on my way over when this woman strutted out of her SUV. Everything about her screamed, "I'm better than you," from her perfectly highlighted hair to her designer outfit that probably cost more than my monthly salary. She was busy tapping away on the latest iPhone, completely ignoring the world around her. "Me, ma'am, you can't park here. This is a fire lane." Karen. Asterisk without looking up from her phone. Asterisk, it's fine. I'll only be 10 minutes. Me, I'm sorry, but that's not how it works. There's a parking garage right around the corner. It's covered and monitored by security. Karen. Asterisk finally looking at me, laughing condescendingly. Asterisk, do you know how much this car costs? I'm not parking it in some dirty garage. Besides, I'm a VIP member at 3 stores here. Platinum level. Me, ma'am, your membership status doesn't matter. This is a safety issue. If you don't move your vehicle immediately, I'll have to call for a tow truck. Karen. Asterisk rolling her eyes dramatically. Asterisk whatever. Call whoever you want. I'll be done before they even get here. Don't you have some teenagers to harass or something? She walked away, still laughing, her designer heels clicking on the pavement. I immediately radioed our dispatch, who contacted the city's towing service. We have a special arrangement with them due to our zero-tolerance policy. They prioritize our calls and usually arrive within 30 minutes. While waiting, I documented everything. I took photos of the vehicle, its position in the fire lane, and the clearly visible warning signs. I also made sure our security cameras had a good angle. Experience has taught me that entitled people often try to twist situations to make themselves the victim. I continued my rounds but kept checking back. 10 minutes passed, then 20, then 45. I watched her flit from store to store through our security feeds, taking her sweet time, trying on clothes, and apparently getting her nails done. The tow truck arrived after about 50 minutes, and I was there to meet the driver. Tow truck driver, this the one? Me, yep. Been here almost an hour now. The driver, a gruff but professional guy who I'd worked with before, quickly got to work. He just finished hooking up the Range Rover when Hurricane Karen came bursting out of the mall. She had shopping bags from all the high-end stores swinging wildly from both arms, and what looked like a fresh manicure. Karen. Asterisk screaming at the top of her lungs. Asterisk, what do you think you're doing to my car? Tow truck driver. Ma'am, your vehicle was illegally parked in a fire lane. We're towing it to the city impound. Karen, you can't do this. I have rights. Asterisk turning to me. Asterisk you're just a rent-a-cop. I'm going to have you fired. Do you know how much money I spend here every month? Me, ma'am, I warned you about parking here. You chose not to listen. The signs clearly state the consequences. Karen, I was only gone for a few minutes. Me? It's been over an hour, actually. I have it logged, with photos and security footage. Karen, asterisk pulling out her phone with her freshly manicured hands. Asterisk, I'm calling my lawyer right now. This is harassment, discrimination. I'll sue this entire mall. I'll own this place when my lawyer is done with you. Tow truck driver, ma'am, you can call whoever you want, but this vehicle is being impounded. Here's the information about where to pick it up and the fees involved. He handed her a piece of paper, which she immediately crumpled and threw at him. By now, a small crowd had gathered to watch the show. Several people had their phones out, recording everything. Karen, do you know who I am? My husband plays golf with the mayor. We donate to his campaign. Me, ma'am, the mayor actually signed the zero-tolerance policy for fire lane violations. It was implemented after someone nearly died because emergency vehicles couldn't access the building. That seemed to stop her for a moment, but then she started up again, her voice getting even shriller. "Karen, this is ridiculous. I spent thousands of dollars in this mall today. You can't treat paying customers like this. I bought a $3,000 handbag. I just got a $200 manicure." "Me? The fire lane rules apply to everyone, ma'am. No exceptions. Not for VIP members, not for big spenders, not even for the mayor himself." The tow truck driver had finished securing everything and was ready to go. Karen was still screaming, but now she was also crying, her expensive mascara running down her face. "Karen, please, my designer ice cream is melting. I just bought it from that fancy new place." "Tow truck driver, you can pick up your vehicle at the city impound. The fee is $500, plus $75 for each day it remains there. They close in 2 hours, so I suggest you head there soon." "Karen, $500. This is highway robbery. I'll dispute the charge with my credit card company." "Me. The signs clearly state the towing fee." "Ma'am, they're posted right next to the no parking signs that you ignored." The tow truck began to pull away with her precious Range Rover. Karen tried to run after it, but stumbled in her designer heels. A few of her shopping bags spilled, sending her purchases sprawling across the pavement. She stood there, surrounded by her luxury items, makeup smeared, looking absolutely defeated. "Karen, sobbing asterisk, I need to speak to your manager. Get him here right now." "Me, of course. I already called him when you threatened to have me fired. He's reviewing the security footage right now and will be happy to speak with you." That's when she finally seemed to notice all the people filming her with their phones. Her face went from red to purple, and she snatched up her scattered purchases, shoving them haphazardly back into their bags. She stormed off toward the taxi stand, presumably to head to the impound lot, but not before screaming that we hadn't heard the last of her. Later that day, my manager called me into his office to show me the complaint she'd filed. She claimed I had targeted her because I was jealous of her wealth, and that I should be fired immediately. She even threw in some nonsense about how I had made inappropriate comments about her appearance, which was completely false. Fortunately, the security footage told the real story, with crystal clear audio that proved I'd remained professional throughout the entire interaction. My manager just laughed it off and added the complaint to our wall of fame, a collection of ridiculous complaints we've received over the years. The best part, one of those viral video accounts picked up the footage someone took, and now her meltdown has over 2 million views. I hear she tried to get it taken down, claiming it violated her privacy rights and damaged her reputation in the community. But since it happened in a public place and was newsworthy due to the safety violation, there wasn't much she could do. The story spread through local social media, and people started recognizing her from the video. Apparently, she's well known at other high-end shopping areas for similar entitled behavior. Other security guards and retail workers started sharing their own stories about her, like the time she tried to return a clearly worn dress while screaming about her platinum member status, or when she demanded that a cafe clear out their patio seating because the sun was in her eyes. A week later, I saw her Range Rover pull into the parking garage like a normal person. She saw me on her way in and practically ran in the opposite direction, her face turning red with embarrassment. Sometimes it takes an expensive lesson and public humiliation to learn basic consideration for others. I actually felt a little bad for her until I heard from the towing company that she'd tried to get them shut down through her husband's connections. Fortunately, the mayor's office stood firm on the zero-tolerance policy. The next day, we put up new signs at all the mall entrances. Fire lanes are not VIP parking, immediate towing enforced. Some say it's a bit passive-aggressive, but I like to think of it as a public service announcement. After all, if we can prevent even one entitled person from blocking emergency access, it's worth it.